trying to do for real, for real. Cosmic psychedelic funk is what I came to do. Yep. Hi. I'm so by funky. Hey. So by funky. Hi. I'm so by cosmic soul. Hey.
What's up, everybody? It's yours truly, Dr. Takara Nicole, aka the Identity Architect, along with
Alan T. Black, and we want to welcome you to the Arthur's Authority Lounge, the official TV show for Arthur. So we're glad that you are here with us this morning or this evening, depending on what time you're watching the show. We've got two absolutely fantastic guests today.
we're excited. Nothing like taking your level of expertise and gently, carefully examining it and then putting it in a book. So if you know anything about authorship, it is quite the journey, and these two here are definitely experts in what we need as a community to understand the power of education with our kids and just how to communicate effectively with our kids. And those who take care of our kids and discipline our kids, all the things, they're here. So we're going to turn it over to them with no introduction because they're celebrities here in Omaha. I say that because they're doing so many amazing things in our community. If you don't know them, you should now. Dr. LeDonna and Mr. Leo Lewis II. How y'all doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Yes. We're excited to have you guys here. So tell the people all things about your book, the journey, who needs it, why. The floor is y'all's.
Go ahead.
That's a lot. We're going to break it up, though. It's not everything right then and there. But tell us a little bit about the book. And let's start with the why.
As an educator for many years here locally in Nebraska, working in the school system in all urban areas, so very closely with my community that I was born and raised in. I met Mr. Lewis, and we both definitely agreed, that work can be done in the area of teachers and parents being able to work together.
Yeah.
And so that's where that was the why.
Yeah. And just the belief that it can happen, and I think I'm not a parent, but I'm a godmommy, a niece, not a niece, I am, but an auntie to many. One of the things that I know for a fact with kids is that we have to meet them where they're at. That's really big. And the responsibility has to be shared. Parents have to know their role, teachers have to know their role. But how do we teach our community to really lean on the fact that they can hone in on each other's gifts? So as a parent, there's gifts. As a teacher, there's gifts. How do we effectively get to these parents understanding, like, hey, here's your role. This is what you need to be doing.
And so absolutely the book addresses in detail what you were just asking. I will say, let's expand that, because when you went right away and said, well, I'm not a parent, that's what we refer to as caretakers. And so anyone who interacts and takes on the responsibility of children, we consider caretakers.
I love that.
And so thank you for being the caretaker, as you just described, as you are in children's lives.
Yeah.
And I'll have you can answer the question that.
Yeah, so how I got involved first, and then
Yeah.
I'll go back to the other question. So how I got involved was I found my gift in community organizing back in 2009, 2010, with the precursor being gang intervention and prevention, which was the field that I was working in. And over the years, I started to look at our socioeconomic condition as Black people, especially in North Omaha, and was just addressing the problems as time went on, hosting many town halls, community forums, community gardening, employing individuals, just doing a number of things.
Yeah.
And then it hit home when my nephew was suspended in the first grade, fresh out of kindergarten, before the second month of school.
Time out. That doesn't even sound right.
Correct. And so with that experience, I started organizing, talking to other parents, and found out that this was a real issue in Omaha, that Black children were approximately 24% of the largest school district's population, but accounted for 56% of all of the suspensions and disciplinary actions that resulted in exclusionary, which means you kicked out of school, types of discipline. And so I started looking for educators who really believed in restorative practices. And I only found two. That was Principal J.B. at Franklin and the esteemed Dr. LeDonna Griffin. And so when I had a conversation with her, I saw her passion, I saw her heart, and she really genuinely cared about the families, not just the kid, but the whole family.
Right.
And so we started having some conversations on how could we expand on this work.
So to that extent, Leo, if I may ask, then your path led you to Dr. Griffin.
Yep.
At what point in the conversation did you guys say, hey, we need to take it from here, and put it in the form of a book?
That's good.
Right. It's a long, long story.
Well, just disclaimer, this is the 27 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, man. Yeah, I did some community organizing as I normally do. It resulted in some people losing their jobs because they actually did what was right.
Right.
And it resulted in me shifting in positions in the nonprofit that I was volunteering at. And at the end of the day, that didn't stop the passion in the work.
Yeah.
We were still trying to bring educators or other caretakers together with parents who have the bulk of the responsibility of making sure these children grow up with good emotions and stability. And we wanted them to work together.
Right.
Because we know that's the real solution for discipline.
Yeah.
So it was about 2020 when we made the decision, about February 2020 when we decided, we should just write a book. And that'll be our foundation. We'll put a book together so people can understand our heart for real. It's different when people see you as an organizer or they see you as an educator or a professional and they don't really know your heart and where you're coming from. So that's where the inspiration for the book came from.
I love this. As a publisher, I work with an array of different people, caregivers, caretakers like myself, now that I know what that role was for real, because I'm like, okay, God, you have me in the lives of so many kids, and it's just a blessing. But anyways, as a publisher, I work with different clients who are teachers, and just even listening to the two of you guys at your book signing, it was amazing to hear the story of the why. And I'm excited for the two of you to expand this vision to other states that need to hear this. When you hear a kid being disciplined, suspended at first grade, like, why? Where's the nurturing? Where's the let's help you get to the bottom of this issue? Where's the social workers in these schools? Like, where's the people that help intervene with the problem and get to the root of it, and thinking that, oh, suspension is going to be the way. And especially when you think about, Black and brown communities, a lot of times it's a single mom, the village is helping the mom support the kids. Like, we don't have time for that, That's the last thing that a mother or a single dad needs on their hand is their kid being sent home for probably a reason that makes no sense, because where's the team coming together in the schools and intervening? Like, hey, let's sit you down. This is what's going on. What's going on at home? That might be the root to why your child is like, where's all of that?
And there's definitely some work to be done, because that simple question could cause a lot of, just what's been created between school and home. What we're doing is taking children from a poverty area and putting them in a middle class area, which is the school system. Something as simple as teaching kids how to write. And the writing process, and because often the thought process is circular. Yet when you get in school, you're expected to write linear. And so that has to be taught. But if you, the teacher, don't understand that that's what's happening, then we end up in special education, and these things take place that shouldn't, because we didn't get a chance to learn each other. For me, it all started with a young lady who was in kindergarten. She came to the school that I was principal at in the last 3 years. She came from my neighborhood school into the school that I was principal at, and 72 suspensions her kindergarten year.
72?
Kindergarten.
And although I already understood this was a national concern, that Black and brown children were being suspended at a much higher rate than any other subgroup, And so I said, I just sat down, and that day we can't do this anymore. I called the team in, counselor, PAC facilitator, called everyone in, just put the data in front of them, and everybody had the same response. Whoa. And I said, we have to do something. And so started working with the team. I will tell you, called mom in right away through that conversation, some tough conversations. She cried, she was in tears.
Sure.
And she just said, no one has ever said that to me. I said, well, let's make this be the year that it stops. And so absolutely it did. Long story short, at the end of that year, and we poured in. When you pour in, you're gonna get what you pour in. Yeah. This young lady scored the highest on her standardized assessments in both reading and math of all of the first grade classrooms in the building.
So part of that, Dr. LeDonna, is, to me, the fact that you may have a system that is not willing to identify what the symptoms are. They just want to treat the problem quickly and just kind of move on. Is that a fair assessment?
I will definitely say that is a fair assessment. As far as the special education process, currently today, as it still stands, you have to fail before you get the help. And so one of the things that we did, along with, while I'm working with this child and building this system that says we can bring about change here. In every reading and math classroom, there were 3 adults. It was the classroom teacher, the resource teacher, and the paraprofessional. Reading and math throughout the building. While they were in there, if there was a child who was being tested and moving towards a special education, don't wait until they get in special education. Let's service them. We're in here, we're here, let's provide the service, and we did. Well, guess what? I started being asked by the district personnel saying, what are you doing to close this gap? This is pretty amazing. So I just want you to know there was no academic gap anymore while this process was going on. So it was a win-win, both behavior and academic. And so I do believe we know what to do. And if we just go with our heart and do what's right, that's how we change.
Man.
Right on.
So I got a question. This one's for you, Leo. How did you guys land the title and the subtitle?
It's a great question.
Along
Through a process.
Right.
with you guys, it's so dope. So the title of the book is called The Grown Folks and the Magic Wand, the discipline guide caretakers have been searching for. And I just watched Captain America a couple weeks. So like it gives me this like Captain America vibe.
Right.
Like Marvel type. Now Marvel, you better not come through and read this and then take their characters and create a whole.
Don't do it.
It's copywritten, just saying. So how did you guys land on that?
Right on. And so there's a saying that she's heard and I've heard, which is there is no magic wand to raising children. And we beg to differ. We actually beg to differ. And so we were talking about this saying, and it was numerous titles that we come up with for this particular text, but we settled on the magic wand, and that was it. And then through our conversations, we were talking about the discipline in schools. We were talking about suspensions. We were talking about all of the methods that are used to discipline children that seem to not work, that just seem to repeat a cycle over and over again. So we said, you know what? That sounds kind of like a epic story. And so literally in this book, there's a part in one of our chapters that is literally called the epic story for us. And it's a very small 3-page metaphor for what student discipline and at-home discipline looks like for children. And so there is a almost fairy tale-esque type story in this book called The Grown Folks and the Magic Wand. And it's about this group of grown folks that have this emanating force takes over their children, and the children just don't know how to behave. And so they go out and they find a wand to come back and whip the kids with to get them in shape. And so they don't seem to work. And so the story is in the book. So when you get to a certain chapter, you'll read this epic story that has all the makings of a Harry Potter-esque type movie.
Okay.
I love it. So I'm gonna be honest, I started reading your book and I got so mad. Just thinking about the things that kids go through and they're being shunned and disciplined in the wrong way and what that's doing to their mental. And so when we think of affirmations and I'm powerful, I'm this, I'm that, I can only imagine the struggle that some of these kids have after being disciplined all these times, with even seeing who they really are outside of that. So I had to put it down for a second, because I can feel the emotions of the two of you guys' passion for the book. So people who are out here, like, okay, how long did it take y'all? Which I want y'all to talk about that. The other part, if there's people out there that are looking to create something for their community, stuck, what would you say to them? So, two-part question.
Which one do you want to answer?
I'll give a little tip on both, and then you can do the
Okay.
same. So it did take 5 years, 5 years to write this book. A lot of research went into it, a lot of thought process, and I would say my answer to that, my advice would be to be your authentic self.
Yeah.
And so through that authenticity of my work in education, his work in the community, we were able to put together this piece that we know is going to benefit our community.
And beyond.
Yes, yes.
Beyond, even beyond Omaha, beyond Fremont, beyond Lincoln. Like, I see this different, states are gonna be like, hey, how can I get y'all to come and speak? Anyways, I'm not gonna go there. Go ahead.
Right on. So no, I would echo authenticity. To answer the second question first, I'd echo that if a person wants to get something out, that you first have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Because it took us some honest conversations. She's coming from, she has a lot on the line as a professional, as an academic.
Right.
And I have a lot of controversy around the types of topics that I like to deal with as an organizer. And so I had to say, hey, I still care, and she had to say she still cared. And we showed each other that through the commitment of actually meeting regularly and writing this book.
Yeah.
And so the timeline, though she said 5 years, that's over 500 hours that we spent whiteboarding out our conversation, dialoguing, going back and forth, and then structuring it so that it flowed into actual text that's readable.
Yeah.
So with the book that you've written, and I'm gonna put it out there, this is book number 1. So
That's right.
You will find in authorship, book 1 means you have to do book 2. So are we fair to say that book 1 is reflective, observational, but is it part of it instructional and laying a foundation for what to do next? Is that fair?
I like that.
Very much so.
We've had this
we were
conversation.
literally just talking about this. Yes, exactly that. Book number
Yes.
1 is a lot of philosophy and foundation. We talk about the psychology of children based on some of the European scholars that have identified what children's development patterns are. We talk about some of the social experiments that were done on children and how they reflect in our communities. And how if you didn't know that these things actually happen, you might inadvertently repeat certain cycles that cause psychological damage to your child, and you don't even realize it. And there's whole experiments that show the detriment of what that could be. So we acknowledge that in this book as well. So it's really a foundation, and eventually it will turn into a very serious practical guide. As a matter of fact, I'll let her speak to what we just recently completed with this book, the work that we were doing.
So we are currently and just finished our very first parent university that we've done. So we have a group of parents that we have literally took a curriculum right through, the book being the foundation of the curriculum.
Amazing.
And through that process, really them owning they are the magic wand.
Yeah.
And they did graduate with a certificate after the completion of this.
That's amazing.
And these are parents in the community.
So the curriculum that you are creating, is it done with the community in mind for self-determinism? Keeping in mind that the main system as such may not embrace such a radical change that you're talking about?
The mission hasn't changed, and that is to help our community navigate any system that is put in front of them. And so the goal is working directly with parents. And if we understand who we are as individuals, the rest, it just exists.
Right on.
I'm gonna go back. I asked you guys this question in reference to all things community for a reason. I know there's a lot of people who are seeing things, yet afraid to take action. And I commend the both of you guys for actually taking the action that is needed to really help these kids and their parents and the caretakers they're in and the teachers. It's really a unified effort to really help everybody. But I asked the question because there's people out here who are probably watching the show as well that have an idea, they're sitting on it. They probably don't think it's good enough. They probably don't think that no one's gonna listen. They probably think that there's already a solution out here, so why should I why believe in it? What would you say to them?
Your testimony can save a life.
That's a word right
And that's
there.
the end of the show. That's it. No, I'm just
Bye-bye.
kidding. And we're out. No, that's
Really, yeah.
that's powerful. What would you
Yeah,
say?
and I would say that regret is a seed for vice.
Again, that's the end of the show. I mean, they're just dropping nuggets
I
here.
hope that's in the second book. Good boy. That's a power right there.
And so for a lot of people who feel stuck, feel like they're going in a loop or they're doing things that are not of themselves, but they
Yeah.
feel like they can't shake a habit,
Right.
oftentimes it's the regret of not doing the thing that they know they've been called to do. And so you got to do what you've been called to do in this lifetime or you will suffer in this lifetime.
Amen.
And the other thing too that I've always had a mindset about is, if you don't do what you're being called to do, then what's the collateral impact for the next generation?
Right.
Because if they see you not doing it, they figure, well, it's
Oh,
okay.
It's
So
okay.
now it becomes a generational type of situation where
Yeah.
it just recycles.
And that's what we call generational curses.
That's
That's
exactly
it.
Exactly what we call generational
Yeah, I
curses.
couldn't agree
In
with you
reality,
more.
we're all called to break them.
And we are. And that's why I asked this, because I know that there's people watching and they're like, you know what? I see this and I want to do this. And, you know, sometimes the climate stops people or their mindset stops people or whatever it is, that barrier that stops people from actually executing. And so I'm excited for y'all. I mean, I know Alan and I, we share that excitement, and just the fact that you guys didn't stop. You know, when I work with clients to help them to publish books, sometimes it's 10. I think the longest that I had a client sit on a book was like 13 years. So, you know, you start, you stop, you start, you stop. And that's why I asked you guys in the beginning, like, what's your why? Because your why keeps you ignited. It keeps that fire going. You're like, okay, I know I got to do it because I'm grounded in my why. And so thank you guys for being grounded in your why. And we're excited. So where can people purchase their multiple copies of books to give to people? Not just one. Need to get one for Christmas and Thanksgiving, everything, all the things. There doesn't need to be a season to plant this seed into somebody's life, because it's major, no matter if you're a parent or not, or I'm a caretaker. Now that I know that, thank you. Because I'm like, definitely not a parent. Thank you, Jesus. Because parents, what? I'm being honest. This is our show. I'm thankful that I'm not. I am, and
Right,
God
right.
knows we didn't have the conversation.
That's enough.
But
Yeah.
that's not my testimony.
Right.
And
Stick to your testimony.
my testimony is that I'm thankful for people like them that
Right on.
understand the work and understand how to have those healthy conversations with parents to help them to even unlearn some things that they have adapted to because of the generational cycles. And we take on those things and don't even realize.
Yeah. One of the biggest is your child is not bad. And you
Oh my gosh.
up
Yes.
front with that we
Yes.
do not believe in a
Thank you. I tell
child.
people, like, stop saying your kid is horrible. Like, that's the worst thing that your kid can understand. I'm bad. No, you're not. Anyways, sorry.
Yeah, so the question was, where can we,
Where can
where can
you
you get
Thank
the
you,
book?
Lil.
Yeah, thank you.
Testimony about them kids. I got a little word.
You know, because real talk, this is we haven't had anybody on the show that has spoken to this extent.
This is an hour content.
I know, it really is. We're gonna have to have them come back when they start talking about their curriculum and how people can
Yeah,
get it.
because
Because this is a heavy topic. It's not meant for a 27-minute show. But where can people find your books?
Yes. So you can go to leaders2legendsacademy.com/investments, because it's an investment in your child, it's an investment in your life.
I like
So if you go there, that's where you can find the book. You
Yes.
also can catch us at many pop-ups.
Yeah. So for those of you who are not in Omaha, there's no excuse for you not to get this book. One more time, tell them where they can find it.
Yep, it's leaderstolegendsacademy.com/investments.
Now, the book is a platform. As you go forward from this day, will you be doing pop-up events in the community where you have community forums? Will there be radio interviews? Will there be more TV appearances? Not just locally, but I can see the platform you've created going national. Is that a part of the next day?
Absolutely, it is.
Great. Because as I'm looking at it, I'm looking at the content of the book, it's disturbing.
Very.
For me, it's disturbing simply because of the fact that I think to myself, you know what? We have to do better. There's just no excuse for this. I'm a proponent that we can't focus on the what.
Yeah.
We have to look at the why. When you get to the why, that's a commitment to try to find out exactly what's going on. And for too long in the educational paradigm, it's been the what, well, we're going to suspend them. Well, why? Do we want to look at the why? But that's a whole nother question. I'm not going to get into that. So you got pop-ups coming up. Book 2, we don't want book 2 to be 5 years, do we?
Heck no.
Don't
We
make
need that by the end of Look, you got 3 months to get I'm just kidding.
Wow, you gonna treat our guests
She said 3 months.
like
That's what publishers do. That's what
you
publishers
can
do.
rizzle a little bit, but just don't hammer with it.
Listen,
Man.
listen, people need this. There's a need for the next.
That's what publishers do.
Okay.
We're not offline. But go ahead.
Okay, well, that haven't been said. I don't know where to go from here. Put the hammer down and said, Dr. Griffin, we
gonna talk
got
later.
to get this done quick.
Right on.
But anyway, we're down to 40 seconds, so we got to get ready to wrap up, Dr. T.
We're gonna wrap up, but before we do, any parting words? Take your camera and say something to the people.
First, I want to thank you all for inviting us
Of course.
on the show.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with you. It's definitely a need.
Yeah.
And so if there's anything that Leo or I can do to support you as you are going through this educational journey with children in your life, please reach out. We can be found through leaderstolegendsacademy.com.
Yep. And a caretaker is a person responsible for the emotional and physical well-being of a child. That's the caretaker. That's it. So
All
when
right.
a child is in your presence, that's who it is.
That's
got it.
heavy. That's heavy right there.
Thank you, guys. We're out.
See
You've
you.
been watching the Arthur's Authority Lounge, the official TV show for Arthurs. Be blessed. They'll be back. I promise you that.
See you.
What you trying to do for real? For real. Cosmic psychedelic funk is what I came to do. Yep.